Hey, party people, it's Cliff. So why bother doing anything anymore? And I had a long think about it. And by long, I mean a short, like like the last 30 seconds. And I'm like, how am I gonna, spin this around? Right round. Because there's so many videos, and maybe it's my algorithm or whatever. And why is my camera like doing a little like dipsy doodle right there? There we go. But there's a whole group of the whole group of videos in my algorithms that are like, why bother anymore? Why even worth it? If the universe is gonna die, then there's no point in doing it anymore. Woe is me, like life is not worth living. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's a good question to ask. Like, why is it for me? Why do I get up every morning and go to work? And like yesterday, I did a few edits for a casting reel, and I entered in some data into a spreadsheet, so that the guys can, or so that my bosses can go and do their company, and they're not bringing me with them. Now I say that in the sense that they are, let's see, it is bright out here. That part of me wants to take the rest of the year off after I get laid off. So it's like one of those jokes, but I know that somebody will clip it and they'll be like, oh, look at this guy. And the thing is, like, what makes it worth it? And I think, like, in my younger years, I was like, I was very interested in technology, I was very interested in sci-fi, very interested in like the future of humanity, right? Star Trek, exploration, like, getting, all of that stuff. Wanted to be an aerospace engineer, couldn't do the math, that type of thing. It was like investing into the future, and then after a time, making friends, being with family, exploring life, it was a little bit less about the future and more about just experiencing, different aspects of life, not through a screen, but in the real life, going to a different place and talking with different people. And now for the last 10 years, it's like, I think a lot of those videos, the reason why people make them is because the job that they're at is non-rewarding. It seems like it's mundane, and it doesn't have a purpose. It's kind of like moving a rock from one side of the road to the other side. Like, you see the work being done, but it's pointless work. And, you're not getting paid for that kind of work. And I've talked about how, if you want to get paid more, you have to offer value. And if you want to get paid, a lot more, you're going to have to do something that, you're going to have to offer value and do something that very few people are doing, and that there's a greater need for it. And the only thing that you can do is find that out, And I suppose that I have sort of a luxury, in the sense that the work that I do was working in documentaries and TV and film, is that those projects, I love the storytelling aspect of it. They go out into the world and a lot of people watch it. Sometimes nobody watches it. Sometimes there's drama that comes up. And I can tell you this, I worked on the John and Kate Plus 8 and the 19 Kids and Counting shows way back in the day when I was an assistant editor. I wasn't a producer I think the only time I ever met with the family, I didn't even meet with the family. I think John Gosling came into the office once. I was sitting in my bay, and and they showed him around, and it's like, okay, well, there he is. And then and then for 19 Kids and Counting, I think some of the girls came through the office, and I say the office, it's the studio. They came through the studio, and I remember we had to put away all of the, all of the magazines and all of that stuff. And it's one of those things where it's like, back in the day, I'm like, oh, I'm working in TV, I'm working in this stuff, it's great. But I'm also atheist. So it's like, I'm working on this show where, it's this family who are uber religious. And And the whole drama from that whole thing that happened a couple years ago. And I first, when I first saw the article, I started laughing. I was like, well, that's kind of a thing. I was also called by a producer who made the Shiny Happy People in that documentary. They were like, "Hey, should we interview you for stuff?" And I'm like, "Look, it's been so long, I don't remember any of it, you know. But I do remember the 300 plus episodes that I mastered, getting it to the network, and sending it out, and that's what really helped me in my career in Hollywood and doing documentary films and editing and that type of stuff. Now I work on some other big things. But I say that my employment, because I suppose I got lucky for the last 10 years. I feel like the employment, the kind of work that you do, especially if you're a man, the kind of work that you do matters. And if you feel like your work that you're doing doesn't matter, then the rest of the life kind of falls into the domino effect of being like, oh, well, if my work doesn't matter, I'm barely making it to survive. Like, you need to come to a conclusion, and you need to be like, all right, what do I need to do in order to not have this feeling of going to work and not have this, and not be in this situation? And that's the whole thing. So you sort of take a step back. You say, okay, what is the thing that I want to do? Can I make money quickly in that thing that I want to do? If not, what's the next level down, or what's the next level adjacent to that? Right? And, I was talking with a friend, Henry, and he told me the one time where he worked at a homeless shelter out here in LA. He worked there for 6 months. He said he'd never do it again. And the reason is because he saw things in that vein, in that existence, where it was just sickening to him. And I feel for him. I feel for the homeless people that come up, but it's one of those things where, like, he made a choice. He could have stayed there throughout his, and made it work, or he was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm moving away. And I suppose that, why is it worth it? It comes down to who you are. It's not one all be all, right? Like, if you're in a silly situation, then you need to get out of that silly situation some form of fashion. Like, if you need debts to pay, right, you need to sell off some of your shit. And maybe you're in a situation where, you don't have anything to sell. So you need to become valuable to somebody. And the only thing you're going to be doing, or that you should be doing, is, you work your job, you come home, and you sit down, you take a shower, and then you sit at the computer or wherever else, and, you turn off YouTube, you turn off social media, you turn off all that stuff, and you figure out, like, what you need to do next. And for me, it's like, being consistent and being, and making, it's just making good choices. That's all. I don't know. It's funny. I don't think a 15-minute drive or a 15-minute video could ever answer that question of, like, why do it anymore. But, you could either go down the path of, a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people get into that, mind sulk, and, they make the videos, and it gets the views, but I'm sitting here telling you, like, man, there's just so much interesting things, like, in life. I mean, there's so many different videos. You're just like, oh wow, look at all these cool things that exist in the world, and look at all these terrible things that exist in the world. Like, that's life. That's what it is. Like, why to keep doing it is because you are your own universe, not me, not anybody on the YouTube. You're the only person that is experiencing your life for what it is, and you're the only one that's gonna make it happen and make it work. And, like, you're gonna get folks who don't want to do that anymore. I don't know why. And then you got folks like me who are just like, my out date is in 3 weeks. And I get up every day and I still go to work. Now, maybe you call that routine. Maybe you call that, a process, or maybe you call that, I'm drinking the corporate Kool-Aid. I don't know what you're going to call it. But it's one of those things where, like, I don't know how to tell you that when I get up in the morning, a part of me is like, all right, got to do it. But a part of me is like, at the end of the day, I'm doing something that matters. And I feel like that's the answer. It's like, are you doing something that you think matters? And whatever that is, whatever that can be, does it matter to you? That's it. Should have been a short 15-second video, but I finally got to it. It's like, what matters to you? Like, what matters? Does being famous matter to you? Does getting 1,000 views, 10,000 views on YouTube matter to you? Does your family matter to you? Right? Does working on cars matter to you? Does your job matter to you? And I think you got to take that and you got to be like, all right, well, what matters to me? What am I going to do? And how am I going to focus in order to go do that? And then you learn that sometimes what matters to you might not be the thing that you want to do. A lot of people running red lights today. But I guess it's one of those things where, like, trying to explain it in another different way, but no, it's just, you got to do something that matters. Not something that matters. You got to do something that matters to you. And maybe, maybe I had the luxury of working with professionals in a professional setting instead of working with customers. I worked with customers before at, ice skating rink, fast food joint. And, you deal with your set of people, you have your conversations, and then they go off. And maybe you take a little bit of satisfaction in helping out, somebody. I'm getting a pair of glasses because my eyesight is going. It's not going, but it's unsharp. It wasn't as it used to be. And, I hope that somebody who makes eyeglasses, is making a set of eyeglasses right now for me, for my specs. I'd want to thank them personally, but I don't know where they are in the grand scheme of the world. I think I think that's all it is. It's just, find something that matters to you and do that. It doesn't have to be complicated. A lot of people can say a lot of negative things. A lot of folks, like, on the YouTubes will say, oh, it's not worth it anymore, and it's not doing this, it's not worth it. I just think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. Getting up, putting on clothes, going to do something, even if it's going for a walk. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly did. So I will catch you guys next time. Woo, we made it across the street. I love that. I love that little thing when the traffic clears up. All right, we'll take care. Bye.